Okay, hi. I'm Andrew Price. I'm supposed to do a little podcast thingy about these knowledge questions. First one is supposed to be about the learner profile. And so I'm going to do to what extent is truth relative to an individual, which I think is a very TOKE question. And I think that if you do it right, it hits on a lot of the areas of the learner profile because in the middle of a discussion about this, you're going to be encouraging students to speak to their own personal truths and truths that they think are true for them, but maybe not are true for other people. And that's going to encourage them to be risk takers. But then also, you're going to be encouraging empathetic responses from the classroom and like creating a space for other people to express themselves and feel safe with that risk that they're taking, which then goes into the caring aspect. Obviously, it's going to get into the thinkers and the inquirers thing because you're thinking about the nature of truth, so on, and then so forth. But if you facilitate, again, even in a class discussion, a back and forth, and then you can bring in supplementary materials and talk about uh, various perspectives on truthiness and Cartesian nightmares, so on and so forth, which is then also going to facilitate a kind of open-mindedness as we talk about truths and the relative truths, especially whenever you get into things like the current, current racial tensions in America, things like that. And then that's also going to be dealing with being communicators and being able to facilitate that 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 empathetic response appropriately through communicating with their classmates. Yeah, and then ultimately you could also end it with some kind of a like reflective practice as well. So that's that first one there. And give me just a second here, and then the second one. All right, and then my second question here is to what extent is knowledge a function of time and place? And I feel like this question fits really well into international mindedness because, especially whenever you get into, and I know that AOKs aren't really a thing anymore, but it's hard for me to not think in that framework, having taught TOK for a while so far. But whenever you start thinking about things like religious knowledge systems or indigenous knowledge systems, or the human sciences, things like that, like the human sciences especially, you think about things like gender dynamics or psychology, and the way that those things play out, the way that you're going to answer questions regarding those particular areas are going to change based on where you are looking. If you talk about the idea of gender roles, and you ask people in Japan versus Americans, they're going to have very, very different answers. How those things play out socially, how they play out through kind of the zeitgeist of the culture, are just very, very different. And so that then opens up exploration for why that is, and for how these cultural and then developmental differences, right? So, like I lived in Japan for a while, and their conceptualization of kind of gender roles in society and gender dynamics is really it's like a long hierarchy that goes all the way back into like Shinto faith systems, and then also into like early Buddhist social constructs. And so it really kind of gives you a way to kind of look at that from an international cultural awareness perspective. And then also in that, then explore notions around kind of the functions of like knowing and the operational acquisition of knowledge. So there you go.